I am over a 30-year, third-generation home builder team. We built predominantly in Southern California, and it was through that process and in the later years of our self-employed business that we started to see constraints in our building business that were not allowing us to build any longer. We literally curtailed our business because of policies that required increased off-site requirements for building and reducing square footages that we could build on site, etc. And it wasn't until a few years later that I started to understand the agendas coming out of the White House through executive orders and what that meant to the economy and the shredding of small businesses in the country. And I was starting to also see large corporate builders, private-public partnerships, getting funding and support in local cities and literally stomping out the mom-and-pop builders that certainly many people that we knew were in those years in the 80s and 90s in Southern California. Most of those builders are now long gone and or long since bankrupt. And it was, again, during that process and then not being so busy in my business, as you can appreciate, self-employment takes up all your time in raising a family. I was able to then start looking into what was going on, and I was stunned. It took us to Washington, D.C., actually to the Records Department, to confirm some documents that I saw on the Internet, because I was certainly not willing at that point to accept everything on the Internet as being legitimate. But we had a meeting with our family, and we discussed if these documents were in fact verifiable through the Records Department in Washington, D.C., what we thought as retirement was going to start looking very different, and it has. We did find those records in the Records Department in Washington. Basically, one of the resolutions was adopted in the 70s and allowed the Department of Defense, Congress allowed the Department of Defense to use chemicals and biologicals on the American civilian population without our knowledge or consent. And at the time, I found that outrageous, absolutely outrageous. Well, of course, since then, we now see all of the methods in which they are using chemicals, and we're under a massive silent weapons and chemical and biological system to reduce the population. And as I started to get into these documents, I was horrified. I was sad. I felt extremely betrayed. I certainly then started to realize why this could happen, and I looked into what kind of government did we have that would be poisoning all of us, air, water, food supply, and overhead geoengineering. And I then started to understand how corrupt and weaponized our education system was, and one thing just led to another. And I first initiated a very outspoken awareness campaign about the deployment of the smart meters, which are the electrical devices that read your use of electricity.
Yeah, Deborah, let me stop you for a second on the smart meters. We had a conversation before, and were you telling me that they can crank up the microwave or the energy on the smart meters in a reverse manner and make people sick inside the house or something? Weren't you saying something like that?
Yes, I was. They can request readings off of all of the RFID chipped appliances. It's exactly as you just said. And they can literally increase and weaponize individual homes if they would like to, as they can also do with the cell phone towers that are being deployed. In fact, the telecom industry has now said that there will be one cell phone tower and or antenna for every 75 homes in the country.
And we're now seeing them deployed in the middle of playgrounds at elementary schools, in the middle of the playground.
Yeah, well, of course, the schools are short on funding, and the telecom industries are paying monthly rent for the rental of that cell phone siting space, particularly with schools, first responders such as fire departments, police. They're literally inducing involuntary responses from our brains, because this is brain intrusion. This is what this is. The end goal is rather horrific, but I'd like to certainly let your listeners know what to expect in the short term and what additional reading I can recommend that they do to understand. I will tell you that this is extremely horrifying. I know that many people get very depressed and they just want to shut off and go back to their pizza and watching their indoctrinated programs on television. We really are no longer in a position to have that attitude. We must start looking at what is happening, because it's increasing by the minute, and I mean every word of that. We're seeing it here in Northern California. I'm about an hour north of the Golden Gate Bridge in Northern California, and what we're seeing here is horrifying. We see a tremendous, and never realized it, the influence of Rothschild in this area. For example, everyone can type in our utility company here in Northern California, which is called Pacific Gas and Electric. The acronym is PG&E. You can type in your search engine PG&E followed by Rothschild, and you will find that the CEO from Rothschild LLC is on the board of PG&E. Now, PG&E was in attendance at the 1992 Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit
Agenda 21.
And was tasked to be the model utility company for all of the other utility companies across the country to emulate. That's what's happened. We are being taken over. All of our resources, energy resources, gas, water, electricity, and now, of course, our food supply, everything is being taken over. I'm going to get into that because the Rothschild influence here in Northern California is not unique to only Northern California. I'm only telling you what I have discovered here, and everyone that's listening can do your own research in your community. I discovered when I typed in Southern California, having done business there for so many years, I typed in Southern California Edison, which is the utility supplier down in Southern California, and I did not quickly see a Rothschild connection. But what I then realized is that Southern California Edison is called Edison International. So when I typed in Edison International, there was the Rothschild link. I also discovered here in Northern California the Eel River, or the Potter Dam, that is largely our water supply coming into Sonoma County. The water rights were purchased by PG&E in 1930, a.k.a. Rothschild. Rothschild owns the headwater supply of Sonoma County. And there's an extremely important YouTube I'm going to recommend everybody go to right now. It is Water Crisis Hoax. Again, Water Crisis Hoax, H-O-A-X. Type that in on your YouTube. Listen to my conversation about discovering primary water. And then the next YouTube I would recommend everybody watch is called Primary Water Explained. Primary Water Explained. Now, what does this mean, and what am I telling you? What I'm telling you is what we were never taught, how and where water really comes from. The same exact thing occurred with what we about petroleum. We were all taught that petroleum came from its fossil fuels, that limited resource, and that Rockefeller actually created that illusion. Petroleum is a renewable energy resource, and for all of you that are listening, we need to become educated rather quickly. I would recommend a very important short YouTube called Origins of Oil. Origins of Oil. Understand the earth is magnificent, and there are many renewables that are now being conscripted into scarcity, the illusion of scarcity, for massive profits by the corporate structure, but also scarcity is also part of the massive genocide program, the illusion of scarcity. But primary water is why we don't have a water shortage, and we can no longer be tricked by the media campaign, the propaganda, to frighten us that we have water scarcity. Our children are literally being traumatized with all of the fear campaign and fear-mongering. So we've got to start relieving our children's fear by us becoming educated and starting to let them know that we have an abundance of water.
Deborah, let me ask you this real quick before we keep going on things. One thing that I've really taken to, and I agree with you on all points, I think we are being poisoned in the air, the food, the water. It's endemic, and it's just a multifaceted attack that we're under, and I absolutely agree with you with the powers behind it. But one thing I really keep an eye on, and I've kind of it's been kind of my passion for a while now. Kind of started with noticing a heart bubble on the on a radar signature, and then just watching the chemtrails happening, the geoengineering that's happening above our very heads. And this is something that I moved from Colorado to Montana, to Butte, Montana, which is it's a pretty small county. I mean, it's 30,000 people amongst the county, but still, you know, it's a fairly there's more cows here than there are people. But yet I noticed here that every day I'm documenting, at least every few days, just massive amounts of chemtrails going overhead, where they're doing these X's in the sky, they're doing grid patterns. Last night, literally, there was the tar stain with what appeared to be 8 different chemtrails going out into the horizon. And as much as we may know about it, and as things progress, people are waking up to it because, you know, they can't deny that the skies are no longer the same that we grew up with. But what can we really do about it? I mean, we hardly even, just now we've kind of heard the first project named the Indigo Skyfold Project, and it seems to be so compartmentalized, and you know, the few pilots that we have supposedly heard from seem to be in fear for their lives. I mean, if they want to keep spraying us, there's not much we can really do about it other than educate people. Is there... What can really be done about it other than educating people? And that's something that we've been trying to do passionately here, but I become very frustrated with it because it's just like, well, how do we stop it?
Well, the chemtrailing is something certainly that we have to educate. Certainly, we now recognize in the likelihood of unmanned vehicles being part of the component of chemtrailing. So it's getting beyond our hands. The chemtrailing has multi-purposes. Certainly, they're spraying smart dust on all of us, which become implanted sensors. And literally
And that would be connected to the Morgellons outbreaks that we're seeing?
Well, in part, yes, absolutely. Morgellons is literally creating a new DNA. We're being modified as humans, something other than humans. When you look at the NASA War document that I've had posted on stopthecrime.net for quite some time, I would certainly recommend everybody read that. It is the foundation for another unbelievable document that we recently found. But it will tell us in there that it doesn't matter where we try to hide, that the smart dust can infiltrate even deeply buried targets. And that's on page 42 of the NASA War document. And they talk about microdust being distributed as an aerosol and inhaled into our lungs. And the dust mechanically bores into lung tissue and executes various pathological missions. They admit that this is a completely new type of weaponry, but it is legal. So what we're facing is a diabolical assault on every living thing on planet Earth. And it is so outrageously horrific that it's difficult for people to believe that it's real. And it is real. We can see certainly the predictive programming through the movies that we're watching, the robotization, all of the robots. That is all real. We are being phased out. The NASA War document will certainly tell you that without mincing words. I mean, it is an unbelievable document. When I found it at 2 in the morning and I started reading it, I thought that this just couldn't be real. Well,
where did you find it at?
I don't really know, to be honest with you. I stumble into things, and I just don't know half the time how I got there.
So it was online?
Yeah, it was. And then I vetted it because it was presented as a PowerPoint about a few months before 9/11 by Dennis Bushnell, the chief NASA scientist at the Langley Research Center. And on page 66, for example, it says, increasingly critical are human limitations and human downsides. Humans are too large. We are too heavy. We are too tender. And I want you to remember that, the tender part. We're also too slow, physically and mentally. We require huge cost, and we have a rapidly decreasing to negative value. And they talk on the very next page, 67, about robotics in the large and how they're more efficient, more effective, they cost less, and they do not create the detriment in the environment. I want to flip to this because I think all the listeners right now need to know this right now. I have a YouTube that I did. It was an emergency town hall meeting that we had here in Sonoma County some months ago, but I would recommend that everybody watch this because this is going to happen to you if it isn't already. And it's entitled, the YouTube, Who is Running America and the Climate Action Plans? Who is Running America and the Climate Action Plans? I think what's most important to let everyone know is that there are ways that we cannot consent. Can we stop the chemtrailing? No. Can we educate people about it? Yes. Can we deny access to our homes to ultimately force retrofitting in our homes because of policies that are adopted in your cities right now that require you to reduce your CO2 emissions? This is all fraudulently based science and policies coming out of your cities.
Yeah, Deborah, let me stop you for a second, Deborah. Talk about that because that fascinated me when we talked previously. You told me that they're setting up entire industries right now to retrofit every single dwelling in the United States. All of them are going to fail the initial carbon evaluation. Is that not what you were saying? Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. And a builder would say it like this, as I am. Every structure in the country, and including globally, is non-compliant to meet the newly concocted, scientifically fraudulent requirements of new energy reductions based on lowering your CO2 emissions in your home. So what do I mean by that? Well, there are 3 tiers to this fraudulent plan that's coming out of everyone's city. Now, what I'd like everyone to do that's listening to confirm this for yourself is type in the name of your city in your search bar, followed by policies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Again, the name of your city, followed by policies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. You will find those policies. It is an executive order through the White House. We are run by executive orders. We have a de facto government. This is why all of this is happening. And I'm going to state this right now so that people will understand, because all of this sounds so crazy and absurd, and it is. And how could this possibly be happening? And I want to say that it's an established fact that the United States federal government was dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act of March 9th, 1933, as declared by President Roosevelt. Everyone listening needs to understand the reality that we have been in. We have had phony fiat currency since 1913, nothing but debt notes. You build more false takedowns on top of phony false currency. You build de facto governments out of this. In fact, what we now know since the bankruptcy is that the receivers of the bankruptcy, of the United States bankruptcy, were the international bankers, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. And sadly, all United States offices, officials, and departments have been operating within a de facto status and in name only. And what does that mean? Well, we're USA Inc. We're a corporate structure. In fact, we are Earth Inc. Massive corporations, really controlled by a few, have taken over the illusion of representative governments. All of our cities are incorporated. They do not serve us. That is why so many people will go to their city meetings and maybe get 2 or 3 minutes to address the city council with some very important documents and information which goes nowhere. I want everyone to pay close attention to this statement right now. By and large, your cities are operating and getting revenue from grants. They are signing grants, they're signing contracts and going after grants. And every corporate agency in the country is doing the same thing. Our debt is absolutely uncontrollable because they're printing money and they're increasing the national debt. I'm talking about grants at every level, not only your cities and counties, but your health departments, your education departments, fish and game. Every single department is operating off of grant money. And this is horrific when you really start to look at it. But again, getting back, I recommend that everyone type in the name of your city, followed by policies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Then type in the name of your city and type in energy audit firms, energy audit companies or energy audit firms, same thing. And you will find that energy audit companies are there in your town. They are going to offer you free in-home energy audits. Do not sign up for these. Your energy audit will end up on a massive Department of Energy website, and they will track and monitor your compliance to required retrofitting in your home. Now, this is a 3-tiered program of retrofitting. The first retrofitting, you will be offered loans. This is a massive new bank venture as well, because there are loans now available through the federal government, a.k.a. the World Bank, a.k.a. Rothschild, that will allow you to borrow money to implement the required retrofitting that you are required to do. And that looks like this in many instances. Putting on cool roofs, changing out all windows, certainly all weather stripping, all new appliances if your current appliances are not energy efficient and they are not Energy Star rated appliances. Those are all the appliances now with the RFID chip technology and the surveillance and the cameras. This includes even your thermostats in your homes, your hot water heaters. Here in Sonoma County, our approved climate action plan states that we are to no longer have or use gas appliances or equipment. When we first saw that in the plan as builders, we were horrified because obviously many people, restaurants, so forth, cook on gas. Well, that is going to be eliminated under these plans. And what the real goal is, as identified by the Department of Energy, the ultimate goal is to use no energy at all. In fact, in the YouTube that I strongly, strongly recommend everybody watch, Who's Running America and the Climate Action Plans, I actually have this document and tell you where to get it on stopthecrime.net because I also have a climate action plan link. But because I've accumulated so many documents and I realize people are not able to spend the kind of time that I am, I've been creating YouTubes and assembling the documents within the YouTubes with explanation so that it's easier to understand how these documents are all blending and working together.